All right, guys, you ready to kick things off? Episode 100. 100. Today is Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. Got a great show lined up. Happy USA Election Day, everybody. Oh, yeah. There's more than one thing to celebrate today. The USA is going to have a new leader soon. That's very exciting. And of course, you know, in honor of that, we're going to take a look at prediction markets. There's been people voting already with their Bitcoins. Oh, yeah. What do they have to say about this election? And sometimes I think, you know, the USA is they're kind of poking around all over the world. So I was thinking that maybe, you know, other people should get to vote besides Americans. But probably not a very popular opinion in the United States. But anyway, we've got some great local news. I'm just going to lead here. We're on the front page of Reddit, the Bitcoin subreddit. Oh, yeah. That was a nice way to wake up this morning after looking at election news all night and being depressed.
Who posted the link?
What's that?
Who posted that link?
I don't know.
Just somebody.
I don't know. Just some random person.
What's the username?
I don't remember.
What got on?
It definitely wasn't my mom. I mean, she didn't do it. It wasn't her. Don't look into that.
It's like Gary's mom, 1970s.
Okay, we're going to go around the world like we sometimes do. We've got news from China. China. Spain. And Venezuela. They speak Spanish in Venezuela as well, right? Okay, and if we get to it, we've got our top 10 predictions for 2017 for Bitcoin. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. Let's kick things off, guys. All right, the filter, number 100. We've done this 99 times before. We're going to give it one more shot, 100. I thought I'd show you guys, like, all of my bookmarks. This is like 2 years worth of Bitcoin filter bookmarks. Oh, yeah. Depressing. Actually, this is good. This is my own little blockchain. This proves to me that I actually did this 100 times. I can go back and look at my bookmarks from June 9th, 2015 and see how many still work. We're coming to you live from Hubud, hubud.org. The cool conference room inside hubud.org is where we do this every week. If you find yourself in Bali on a Tuesday night, we do this every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. local time here in Bali at Hubud, and Hubud is nice enough to give us the space to do it, and we are very appreciative of that. We've also got this bitcoinsinbali.org website where we coordinate our Bitcoin classes, and we've got a little volunteer section if you want to get involved in our community building. Check out bitcoinsinbali.org. Christine put a lot of work into this website. Thank you, Christine. We've got the Twitter sphere. If you look at hashtag BitcoinsInBali, which is a hashtag that's sweeping the nation, I think, or the world, I should say. Actually, Twitter is suppressing this hashtag because they don't like what we're doing. Why it looks like it's a little bit of a ghost town. But check out Bitcoins in Bali, and if you've got questions about what we're doing here, you can just use that hashtag, and we will see it. All right, we also do the blue. This is the Book of Face, the Facebook. We've got a Facebook group, Bitcoins in Bali. See right up here, we got our own little URL, the groups/Bitcoins in Bali, where we have cankerous and flame-worthy discussions online. This is where all the magic happens when we're not together in person. Of course, we'd love to be in person all the time. Wouldn't that be nice if we could just hang out together, talk about Bitcoin 24/7? We can't do that though. So we do it asynchronously on here. We crowdsource the news, and if you find, I hope you'll post it here. We're wrong in posting it. All right, that's the Facebook group. And what are we doing here? We're trying to build a Bitcoin economy, and this is a real-time graph of the Bitcoin economy in Ubud. This is a selection of Bitcoin merchants and the Bitcoin ATM. And if you were to go out into the Ubud area and find a Bitcoin merchant, then and spend some Bitcoin, you would see it represented in this real-time graph. This is something that Willy Woo, our own Willy Woo, put together. Hey, he's here in person. Can you believe it? The presence of greatness. The presence of greatness. Bitcoin celebrity Willy Woo is here in the house. Welcome, man. I refresh this page every 8 minutes. I've got it on my phone, on my tablet. So I love it. It's like my little pet.
Like the guy from Lost in the Ash that has to push the button every year.
Yes, F5, F5, F5. Yes, you've got a very niche audience of one person. Okay, we've also got our YouTube channel, and subscribe here, folks, and then you'll find out all this bonus content. Earlier this week, I had a conversation with Will here. He's getting a lot of attention lately from a lot of the data visualization stuff that he's doing around Bitcoin, and we had a little chit chat about it. We had a few technical difficulties, but in the end, we got it done. And we also posted this little interview that Stephen did with Tony Lane Casserly, the former CEO of Cointelegraph. And if you didn't subscribe, then maybe you missed it. So just a few more subscribers, and then you can keep up with what we're up to. All right. How many of you guys listened to the little thing we did with Will? Yeah? Were you frustrated by the we started almost an hour late, or were you was that right with you? Yeah. We got kind of a late start, but in the end it was really good. And yeah, it was fantastic. We talked about what else we talked about? We talked about Bitcoin volatility and his graphs around that, which I'm actually going to cover again here. I'm going to make a point on that. And we also talked about your latest article, which was comparing Bitcoin investing to investing in startups, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we covered that. I think we got there. Anyway, okay. So that was we did that this week. We also had our interview with Tony Lane Casserly, as I said. And drum roll, please. Oh, Manu, welcome. All right, it is Old Home Week. 100 episodes. Woo! People are getting their money worth tonight. You'll be interested in this, Manu. Yes, it's standing room only tonight. Drag a chair in here, man. You can sit on my lap if you want. That's cool.
Oh, thanks,
All right, check it out. This is a screenshot because, Reddit is blocked in Indonesia. There's all kinds of crazy things going up on Reddit that Indonesians don't like to see. So, but I had my mom send me a screenshot, and you can see we were right on the front page. In fact, later on in the day, we bubbled up towards the top, but I think we kind of got scrolled down off of it. But we were there for a few minutes at least, and that's pretty cool. This is like Bitcoin stardom, when you can make the front page of our Bitcoin. Basically, there was a person who came through here, I think, back in August. It was when I was away, and did a little thing on the Bitcoin scene here in Bali. Somebody posted it to Reddit, and it made its way to the front page. So that was really exciting. That was the first thing I saw this morning when I woke up.
What did the comments say?
Yeah, here's some comments.
Awesome! I didn't know this.
So, some of them are unfavorable.
This is awesome.
Yeah,
like
this
that.
is awesome. Crazy. Here's the guy who made the video. He says, "This is my video. Cool." And one of the things that I thought was really nice, which is why I pulled up the comments, was somebody, I didn't know this, but somebody mentioned that somebody from Indonesia translated 100+ pages of a Bitcoin C# book. And just dropped it on GitHub.
Wow.
And here it is on GitHub. Somebody translated all of these pages, and someone from Indonesia, apparently. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys are all that familiar with GitHub or open source development. It's something that we work on in order to get the software that merchants use to accept Bitcoin. And this is another example of the power of it, where you can put your project out there. It's an open source project, and it can be completed by a total stranger. You say something like, I want my book translated into Indonesian language, and then boom, somebody picks it up and does it. It's like magic. The open source development culture is really fantastic. In fact, there are anthropologists that have actually studied, because they're not paid, they just it's like a phenomenon. It's like an anthropological emergent property of open source development.
Gift economy.
Yes, gift economy, doing something for your fellow man and not keeping things private and closed and owning it and guarding it. It's just out there, and people's charitable tendencies come out. It's nice to see. All right, let's take a look at the price. And for one Bitcoin, it's looking like 9,200,000 rupiah for one Bitcoin.
Happy days.
Yes. I remember when it was down around 2 million, 3 million.
Yeah.
You walk by that Bitcoin ATM, and it's very subtle. It says it down at the bottom. When we took a look for one summer. Was that last summer or the summer before?
2015. Yeah.
And well, things are coming back to life, it looks like. US dollar price, we're at $708.89. And this down here is a little bit of a historical of the Bitcoin price. Right here, this is when we peaked. When Mount Gox, remember Mount Gox? You guys remember the Gox? Remember when we got Goxed? Mount Gox turned Goxing into a verb. We got Goxed, and look what happened after we got Goxed. It went shh. It's like a ski slope in the Himalayas. All right, that's dangerous. What's interesting is look at all this. How low this is the volume. Lots of very low volume. So lots of fevered trading going on here, and then we are kind of in the doldrums. We rode it all the way down to the bottom. Started to come back to life here in 2018. But here's that doldrums we were just talking about, JP.
It went down to the point it was at before to recover again.
Yeah.
Because the GOX basically represented false demand, so it totally confused the market. So
yes, remember the Willy bots?
Mm.
The Willy bot story?
Willie,
No relation to Willy that we know of. Although
Charlie went further from even 1 or 2 years back, completely eliminate the entire box phase. It's almost as if it never happened.
Yeah.
We're still rising on the same before the bubble.
oh, if you were to draw the regression curve through there,
If you were to do a log, right? Log.
yeah, it would look.
yeah, it looked pretty smooth.
But this looks like a pretty strong climb here, and look at the volume that supports that climb. It seems like there's a lot of people getting into the game. What's that, Will? You have a it's undervalued based on the volume and the trend.
Well, I did a valuation on it, right? And it was above the line, and then afterwards it was below the line.
Oh, the regression line.
Yeah.
Grab a chair.
All right. One thing that is interesting is taking a look at the Bitcoin market capitalization. This is related to the price, but this is the value of all Bitcoins in existence. And can you see that the graphs look a little bit different? But it's a little squinched up, Larry. Can you see that kind of squinched upness that I'm referring to? And look at how much we've recovered of the original market capitalization right here. It's not come back that far. See, we're in terms of price, we're still down here. But when you look at market cap, all Bitcoins in existence today are worth, what is that? Is that 10 billion right there? I can't see that number. 12 billion.
Okay.
So how does that happen? How the price hasn't come all the way back, but the market capitalization has more than the actual price? How does that happen?
So the blocks that have been created in between.
Yes,
So
the
new currency in circulation.
yes, we've got lots more Bitcoins here. Right. So every 10 minutes, there's a batch of baby Bitcoins that come to life. Right. Every 10 minutes, we got our suckling little Bitcoins that we have to take care of in the world. And and yeah, we've been there's far more Bitcoins in existence at this higher price. So that's why the market capitalization has come back further than the actual price itself. So imagine what the market cap will be when we finally get back to this, what is this, like $1,100? But we've got a larger number of Bitcoins that share that higher price.
And it was meant to psychologically, there was talk years ago that when we get back to that point again, it should psychologically open up a lot more liquidity. Because there's a lot of people getting in at that point and thought the valuation was real, thought the demand out of Mt. Gox was real. Like lots of people came in on the hype and put money in, and then it crashed away. So it gets back to where it was before. Like, and all those people have been holding. Like, we're not gonna.
So there's a psychological effect. Like here, like our girlfriend cheated on us, and like we have this like time when we don't trust her. All this time we're not trusting our girlfriend, but slowly she's nice and things are going well, and like we kind of get back to where we started from. Is that like something similar, like a psychological trust factor that you're talking about?
Yeah, well, the people that got in at that time don't want to release their coins or spend their coins or use their coins until it gets back to where it was before.
Right.
Yeah,
right. Which is why you've got this
liquidity once we around now. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why probably all these the volume here is so low in this area, because people are just like, I think I'll just sit on it. I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin and take the loss. Right.
It's bag holding, right? It's bag holding psychology.
Yeah, and there's only ever like 2 or 3% of all Bitcoins on the markets at any one time anyway. So it's really interesting to see the volume picking up and the rise in price riding this this much heavier volume than we saw when the price was coming down.
Has anyone done a study on the keys that have been lost? Because that's not the true quantity out there, right? It's way less.
Right. Well, no. I mean, how can you tell though if a Bitcoin's been lost? Or the original coins of Satoshi Nakamoto haven't moved. Do you think he lost his thumb drive?
I know 1,000 of them with counterparty, right? They burned 1,000.
Oh, okay. So there are some that have been known to be burnt.
Yeah, but I'd say.
There's also the fact that all the coins that have not moved since 2013, before 2013, are cryptographically insecure for forms of decryption that will come in the near future. So everyone who has a sufficient amount of coins has not moved them for 2013 and is sufficiently mature to know what will be coming. So a sufficiently, say, sophisticated person to understand that they should be moved to a new address would have done so already. So all the coins that are sitting in addresses that were created before 2013 are probably lost coins, and they're just waiting for cryptography to. That's the idea for quantum computers to swoop in and remove them from those addresses as soon as they.
Do they have to move their coins to be secure? Yes. I thought the moment you move your coins, it becomes insecure.
In general, yes, but the way in 2013 the cryptography behind Bitcoin was changed slightly to make it, to some degree, more quantum proof than it was, because the algorithm for which it was the hashing algorithm up to that point was found to be possibly insecure in the medium term. So it was upgraded. But in order to upgrade upgrade it completely, all coins should have moved to new addresses. And so the Satoshi coins have not moved, and other coins have also not moved. So there's some likelihood that those coins that have not moved are simply lost coins.
All right. Here is the Bitcoin time machine, right? For the last week, we can see what the price was. We were way up here around, what was that? 744, and then we had a little bit of a fallout here, and we're back down to this level. Does anyone know what happened when we puked here in the middle of the
Zero
week?
Hedge insider trading.
Oh, Zero Hedge did some fear mongering, or
I think that they posted that possibly spurious a screenshot of a Bloomberg in which the news was discussing that China was trying to find a way to stop Bitcoin capital outflows.
okay, interesting.
Made it less attractive.
You mean you can use Bitcoin to defeat capital controls? That's interesting. Fascinating.
What next?
Okay, we usually look at this volatility index, and you can see we're much higher than we're used to being. We were toying with 1% and 60-day volatility numbers. And actually, Will, you said that you didn't like the calculation that he uses for this, right?
Yeah, it's wrong.
It's wrong? Okay. So, but it is the same algorithm every week, so we can get an idea of the trend in volatility. But maybe we should write this guy a letter, huh?
I thought so.
Yeah? Yeah? Seriously, right?
I thought so.
Yeah, and I think this is open source on GitHub, right? This stuff.
Yeah, so here's the code on GitHub, and then here's an export, which is available on the site, and I was going to all through this code.
Yeah.
I just checked it against the Forex trade desks, and the code's wrong.
And is there another source we can throw up for everybody's benefit every week?
I was thinking of putting my one up.
Yeah? All right.
Yes.
You heard it here first, guys. Breaking news.
Move your traffic to you. Yes.
You have plausible deniability in case you change your mind. Don't worry. All right. Speaking of volatility, this is the articles that we talked about when we got together earlier this week. These are, that's a better picture. These are some volatility predictions compared to a couple other currencies that you might have more of a feel for. This dark blue line is the US dollar. This lighter blue line is the New Zealand dollar. And you can see the New Zealand dollar was way up here around 5.5% volatility recently. In fact, you can see fiat currencies are becoming much more volatile against one another. It's very interesting. These are the regression lines plotting Bitcoin volatility over time. And Will's point, and this was widely cited for the people that are paying attention, as very interesting insights that we could reach some sort of parity with regular money by July of 2019. Now, why is that important? It's important because that makes it possible for people to use and see Bitcoin as a store of value that's not going to change in value wildly over time. So they can make plans, right? If you're a merchant and you're accepting Bitcoin payments, maybe you'll make a choice to hold Bitcoins as opposed to convert them right to fiat. And when that starts to happen, more people start to use it as money. It's really got to be a store of value in order to serve the function of money. And we're not there yet. You know, the zealots are there. I'm there. I'm like...
Someone say zealot?
So,
Right.
welcome. Come on in. Yes, it's standing room only. Sorry about that. We could drag another chair in here.
That's all right. I got this little thing right here. Is that all right?
Yeah.
You like the ghost in the corner?
Yes. So anyway, mark your calendars. We will. I'm going to call Will on July 1st, 2019. Maybe we should do a prediction market on this.
Do you want to know something crazy? I'm just looking at the trade volume of fiat to Bitcoin. Around that time, we'll have higher trade volume in Bitcoin than USD Euro.
USD Euro.
Yeah.
What's the trade volume on USD Euro these days?
I
Did
think
you
it's
see it?
about $6 trillion per day.
Point at?
It's peaking at 6 billion.
6 billion per day.
It's about 100-fold smaller.
Oh, okay.
Which is still a lot because these are the biggest traded markets in the world, right?
Right. But we're on an exponential growth curve with Bitcoin. It could.
Yeah, it's crazy because in 2 years it looks like Bitcoin will dwarf any fiat currency in stability and trade volume.
What's the value of one Bitcoin at the point where we reach this parity?
Singularity.
There's no direct correlation, but Vinny Lingham says he thinks it's about 3,000.
3,000 US dollars.
For price stability, he said.
Okay.
So
and a market cap of like 30 or 40 billion dollars, right?
Yeah, that's his number. I ran the numbers, and there's no correlation.
Maybe it just needs to be spread out over enough people, enough use cases, enough amongst enough people where no individual transactions can push it around up or down as much
Or
for the volatility.
oh yeah, I mean, like if you look at forex, it's like international trade. But if you look at Bitcoin, it's like trade across town, and that'll hit the forex market. So the amount of nodes that are trading are exponentially higher. So it should be
Because it's easier, the friction isn't there.
There's more nodes. It's like stability is when people are on the market saying, I want to buy, I want to sell. The more you have a really steep order book. So to say, I want to push the price around, I'm going to buy hundreds of thousands of people's orders. So it's really hard to shift. And with Forex, you've got just a few international trade. And whereas like when we buy it in Kismet, if Mike is like going to hold fiat, which I don't think he is, but if he does, he's going to hit the exchange in Indonesia, right? So most people at the moment are trading their Bitcoins, merchants are going. So
right, and that creates sell orders and it drives the price down.
yeah, and ask yourself how many international trade orders get put on the forex markets compared to over-the-counter.
Right.
The magnitude would be hundreds, thousands, I don't know, millions possibly, because the trade within a country doesn't go outside of that closed circuit. But with Bitcoin, it's open. It's like it's so much bigger that the stability should dwarf fiat in a few years.
So when that happens, does that mean that it's going to be preferable to hold Bitcoins over other currencies? Yeah.
I think it means like if you've got the most stable currency the world's ever seen before, right? Like does that make it a world reserve currency? Does it like I couldn't believe it when I saw the number. You know, if this is the trend and the logic behind it's solid, will it become a reserve currency?
Yes. Well, I heard the Russians and the Chinese are shopping around for a new happy with the dollar these days, looking for alternatives. Maybe the world needs something better. What's that?
They're trying to gold back, aren't they?
They've got the SDR, right? The World Bank has their special drawing rights, which is a basket of currencies, and Russia and China have been hoarding gold, and I think that gives their sort of standing within that basket. And when we have another economic crisis, perhaps the World Bank will swoop in with their new fiat currency, which is their own version, and perhaps Bitcoin will be an alternative. We'll see. We will see. Stay tuned. This is why you got to come every Tuesday night, so we can talk about Bitcoin volatility. It's so exciting. All right. Here's the number of transactions per day, and you can see we've talked about this before, but you can see how this kind of flattening here. What this means is Bitcoin is maxed out. Bitcoin is totally. We're redlining Bitcoin right now. You can only get so much information into a Bitcoin block, and because Bitcoin is a consensus code base, they can't come to a consensus about changing this limit, right? So right now we're at a 1 megabyte block size limit, which means they can open transactions into each block. We get one new block every 10 minutes, and remember, Will, you warned us about this way back when. You said based on the trajectory of the growth of Bitcoin that we would hit this sooner rather than later, right? And you mentioned the 7 transactions per second limit, and actually it's a little bit. In reality, it's a little bit less than per second. We've got a graph over time of the transactions that happen per second. You can see it peaks up around here at that's the number 5 if you can't see it. 5 transactions per second, and we've got these breather periods in between those times when the network is totally slammed, so that the blockchains can catch up. They can put actions that didn't make it into the current block into the next block. But if Bitcoin transactions continue to grow, if Bitcoin continues to succeed, we've got to solve this problem. See, even right now, this is a real-time view of the blockchain.
It's mempool, right?
Yeah, this is
not blocks.
These are
mempool before it goes into the block.
These are all blocks, and this blue line represents the mempool. So you can see there that we've got a backlog even right now of transactions that are trying to make it into the next block.
That squiggly thing, the number of transactions hitting the mempool.
This is the number of transactions per second over time.
Hitting the mempool, right? Based on that title. Being processed.
Right. So, but presumably when the mempool goes down, that's when they're making it into a block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's just like a.
It's like a heartbeat,
It's
right?
like a sine wave. Yeah. As the what?
It's
a live menu.
It's
a force of nature.
It's day night.
Oh, it's very nice.
US, right? Must be.
Yeah, you might be right there. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So is it which one is China's night and which one is the U.S.'s night? In my head, scratching my chin. Where's the graph like this for U.S. dollar? Does anyone know the website where we can see this information about U.S. dollars? No, it doesn't exist. We don't know how many U.S. dollars there are. We don't know how. Oh, okay.
Well, we could fix
Well, it's
by
funny.
putting
U.S. dollar's been
our-
around for so much longer. You'd think we'd have these kind of tools at our disposal. And I'll have to reach out to Janet Yellen. Maybe she has the answer.
I went to the Fed's website. They didn't have many tools.
No. Okay.
It's kind of good though.
Well, today's voting day. Maybe the next administration will fix that problem for us as long as we vote for the right person. Here's another graph. Sorry to throw up so many graphs. How many people like glaze over when we look at graphs? I love graphs. I think they tell a story. But some people get freaked out. They they get into the fetal position and try and go to a happy place when we throw up graphs. But I think they really tell a story. This is miner revenue, right? And the miners are not children under the age of 16. They are largely Chinese technology operations that are clearing Bitcoin transactions. All this computing power that's driving this graph is done by miners, and this is how miners get paid. Remember I said baby new Bitcoins are born every 10 minutes? That block reward is what it's called, goes to the miners along with the transaction fees for all of the transactions that they can jam into the block that they get a reward for. We see this is how it happened over time. This is the Mt. Gox height, right? And this is
the congressional hearing in November.
This is the congressional hearing. And is this Mt. Gox?
I think that if I remember correctly, I wasn't around back then, but the price actually went up once Mt. Gox went down. Because people started to realize there were fewer Bitcoins in circulation than they thought there were. At least it spiked briefly.
Okay.
But I might be
Interesting.
wrong about that, because I was not there to. I think Mt. Gox went down in April 2014, March or April.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, and we've got this little fall off in miner revenue. This is when every 4 years the Bitcoin rate gets cut in half. Right here, all the block reward gets cut in half, and so now the miners have been making significantly less than they were during this period of Bitcoin. So you've actually got a lot more Bitcoin miners, or at least a lot more computing power thrown at the Bitcoin network, but they're making less money overall in its entirety down here. And do you think they're happy or not happy about that circumstance? Do you think out of the goodness of their heart they're going to work for less money? Probably not. So how are we going to solve this problem? We've got Bitcoin maxed out, right? They cannot push any more Bitcoin transactions through the network really than they're doing now, and the people clearing those transactions are not getting paid as much, right? So
I think mining fees are going up. I'd like to see a chart on that. Average mining fee.
Well, yeah, but it's not enough to make up for the drop in block reward, at least not yet. And there's a limit on the fees that they can charge because the block sizes are limited, right? So they can only get so many transactions into a block. So
that needs to be debated. I had this conversation with Edmund years ago, going, well, will they make more with more? He was saying with less capacity, they'd make more, which has an argument, right? Because that demand and supply shoots the price up, which is what we're seeing.
Right.
The fee price.
Right. And I've seen Bitcoin fees of like 28 cents, 35
Yeah.
cents.
That's 10% of their reward right now. It's like, it used to be like under 1%.
Right.
Well, and this is what needs to happen because eventually there will be no more block reward, and all of that income has to be replaced with a fee
The
marketplace.
original vision of Satoshi.
Yes.
It's become a fee market. Block rewards.
But that's not happening fast enough for Bitcoin miners, or at least the Chinese
If-
Bitcoin
If
miners.
you look at the chart again, we look at the end of last year and the rewards there, and then the speculation that was most of this year in anticipation of the halving. There, they're doing better than they were at the end of last year,
Right.
or all
Yeah.
of last year. But we're still-
Yeah, this is the doldrums period, and this is
Essentially the price of food when they come through.
Yeah.
and that's what you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what-
And then
Keep this in mind. File this away. 4 years from now, we're gonna have another halving event.
Double your money.
Well,
Yeah,
they
you can-
didn't know whether or not the hashing power would happen. Actually, that was the other thing. It could have dropped by half, and we'd have half the security.
Right, but that's not what happened. The hashing power stayed.
Bought more rigs before the halving, so they're really bullish.
Yes, it's Bitcoin fever in China. Thanks for coming. See you. Bye.
Question for those of you that know more than me. From a permaculture standpoint, nature, diversity is the only true security because any singular point can and will fail eventually or be co-opted or whatever. So looking at this as the security that's built on evening out the transactional impact, so no one person can make a huge impact on the system. That multiple blockchain currencies with a trust contracts between those could back each other, so that you kind of get this contractual stability, but you'd still have that diversity, which would allow a little bit more independent mathematical creativity, or it's some. Again, I'm speaking a language that I don't have the full language for yet, but the idea being, could we have more of a diversified system of blockchain currencies that, by using blockchain agreements between those currencies, could then boost each other up, almost like community currency systems.
Have you heard of side chains before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because one of the ways they're trying to scale Bitcoin right now is with the Lightning Network. This concept of side chains, and it's exactly that. It's like the blockchains linked together and trust one another to support one another. So it's a way you can create a separate cryptocurrency but still link it into the security of the already established Bitcoin blockchain. And then in your Lightning Network, 100 times more transactions per block. And then it simply puts like a checksum or a receipt of that into the Bitcoin blockchain. But,
Yes.
I don't know the latest, what's happening.
It is happening. I mean, they're working on it. In fact, the last Scaling Bitcoin conference, they were talking about just this very thing. Ability on a layer above.
Yeah, we're waiting on SegWit to come out. It relies on that fundamental
Segregated witness.
And the
Yes.
miners are voting at the moment, kind of thing, right?
And so that the earliest it can come out is
SegWit is
December.
a segregated witnesses. It's a proposed change to Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's an extension kind of to the scripting.
From
But
the
like
name of it, I can kind of guess what the idea is.
it's so it could come out by December at the earliest, but then it's contingent on 95% of the miners adopting the software.
Well, yeah, and that takes me to my next point, because the miners are in the business of making money. In fact, they're quite shrewd. I think a lot of them, maybe don't have the philosophical desire as much as the desire to profit. At least that's what they kind of have been saying. These guys recently got together. They had their first Chinese Bitcoin miner conference, right? And what's interesting, I thought there's like cultural differences to observe, and to, this is a worldwide system. You got most of the development happening in the United States and Europe, and you got most of the mining happening in, and these guys have to cooperate, right? We got this huge global system, and fits together in a consensus-based system, and I think there's just different ideals, different opinions, different. It's getting political. I mean, it's politics in the purest sense. It's people cooperating, or what are the rules for people interacting with one another? And we've got to interact, or our fates are tied, so to speak. But one thing that's interesting is motivations are sometimes different. Full blocks. Huang's most notable comments address the issue of scaling, or how the Bitcoin blockchain might upgraded for more transactions. Rather than focus on incremental solutions like segregated witness, introduced in the latest software update, he took the opposite approach. His talk saw him arguing for the aggressive on-chain scaling tactics of making bigger blocks, right? And he says, this chart shows the recent 2 years transaction volume, and that's what I was showing you before. That's this guy. See how it's flat right here? This is the graph that he's talking about. And he's saying this chart shows the recent 2-year transaction volume. It had been on an upward trend until hitting a hard limit, and since then it hasn't shown growth for half a year. Why no growth? Because blocks are full. Look at this chart. It shows the blocks are full for the last 90 days. And basically, he has this reasoning. Here's the reasoning. If the block size grows larger, how will miners be affected? 8 years from now, suppose the block size is 8 gigabits. Bear in mind that this is purely hypothetical, and then the daily transaction fee will be 1,000 times of today's 59 Bitcoins, or 59,000 Bitcoins in fees. Get blocks that are that big and there's that much transaction volume, they want the fees. They want the big blocks and they want the fees.
Huge problem with that argument. If you figure out the growth of the blockchain, it's growing faster than hard drive growth. So the lines are going to cross, and our computers won't be able to run the blockchain. So
is the blockchain, the algorithm of mining, is that intentionally difficult process that doesn't really require? It doesn't need to be that difficult, except to make it difficult to get to, right?
To be non-reproducible.
It's almost like if we were mining
This
gold,
is-
it'd be like putting
this
a
is
layer
the-
of concrete down before you get the miners.
this is about the size of the ledger, and the ledger's growing exponentially, right? Every single transaction's being etched onto it. So
there's two things that are often confused in Bitcoin, the network itself. You've got the miners, right, and they're just turning to Bitcoin.
Which is a concern.
Sure, I think it's using, Andreas said the other day, it's like megawatts a day.
It's like a small country's worth, right?
Yeah. But so that's one part. There's all those computers, but then there's another class of computer, which is the nodes, right? So the miners don't actually store the blockchain; they just do the mining. Then you have these other computers, which are the nodes, and I think it's about It's not that many. I think it's about 3,000.
Yeah, 4,000 or 5,000.
Yeah, and each one of them stores the blockchain, which is now at.
I think it's the miners that have the blockchain and the nodes
the
don't.
nodes broadcast the
Miners don't have to store the blockchain. I mine. You don't need the blockchain. You only need the blockchain to run a node. Yeah.
Okay.
So those nodes, and the nodes, there's also an incentive problem in there, because there's incentives, but there's no integrated incentive in the system itself to run a node. You don't earn anything from running a node. You don't get any fees. You don't get any benefit. If you have a business and you have a node, you can send your transactions to your node and they propagate fast onto the network, and there's security benefits and things like that. But there's no actual currency incentive to run a node, and nodes are dropping as well. And so the ledger, every single transaction that's ever occurred in the history of Bitcoin is stored in its complete form, which is the blockchain, basically.
Which is like 30 or 40 gigs large right now.
It might be bigger than that.
How big?
I think
80? Is it 80 gigs now?
That makes sense.
Wow.
Not that much. 80 gigs.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Bitcoin blockchain, I think.
Yeah, that
That sounds
sounds.
about right to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was about 30 gig 2 years ago.
Everyone's
Blocks
going
got a lot bigger.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah.
But
if they did like this, then megabyte limit, the blockchain is going to grow in size. It's still going to grow, but it's going to be a lot slower than it.
But it's interesting.
It'll grow
Yeah.
much faster potentially.
Like he's saying, let's be aggressive by increasing the block size, evolutionary jump. But actually increasing the block size is an evolutionary jump. That's like twiddling one variable. Whereas SegWit opens up Lightning, which is exponentially.
Right,
bigger.
it's the like it's
It
like a safety
offloads,
valve.
yeah, it offloads all these transactions off the blockchain.
But miners aren't going to make money on those transactions.
Well,
Not
that's the
necessarily.
question that we had before, demand and supply. Imagine you had 1 billion transactions and they back onto the blockchain with one transaction. How much
Right,
would that
so-
transaction
So
cost?
is
yeah.
the miner, I mean, let's like taking it back to the physical world, it's like the miners are working together. The goal ultimately is whoever has the biggest server power. So you've got China right now that's willing to put all this energy into it. And we don't know whether it's the government or individuals or what, probably, right? But ultimately, that's still a controllable thing. From my aspect of looking at it as an evolutionary tool, when you have the ability to control the production of something that is considered the currency, then you are giving control to those who can control technology. Ultimately, not
So
just the
you're
technology
right in that,
process.
and that it's getting very, we call it centralization, right?
Yeah,
Centralization of the power. But we're at decentralization because right now the hardware required to mine is so specialized and it changes every so many months. It's an arms race that you've got to be a specialist. But at the moment, someone posted a video of how we're approaching the 40 nanometer chip size for these miners.
Limit.
It's the limit of silicon, so it's like you've got to wait a few years for the
Now, is
next
that,
one.
I haven't studied the blockchain, whether or not quantum processing would actually change that, would it? Or is it's a
It
linear
doesn't change.
process?
The other factor is the diminishing rewards, which is the block reward halving, right? So the ability to control the supply of the new currency is always diminishing. So yeah, in the early days, if you were the miner, you'd be getting tons of coins. Now you're getting far less, and that trend will continue. So the ability for the miners to monopolize the control of the new creation of coin keeps diminishing. So that's
So we could almost look at it as the currently exists, it's kind of like the Earth. It's a finite thing; it can't keep growing. But if we were managed to reuse the resources adequately through the
Side chain.
concept, then we could potentially use the stability of that planetary mass that is the blockchain, exchange energy around it without changing the form of it so much, constantly changing. In other words, we don't have to access the entire blockchain for each transaction, and to do so is highly inefficient and highly wasteful of energy.
My analogy is it's like if the transactions were like a telephone call, what we've got now is a party line in a village. Everyone hears it, and it's not going to scale past the village. You need an international exchange. It's got to fly multiplexed, thousands of different directions.
And it's happening, right? The solutions present themselves because there's so many people that are interested in solving these problems. The tricky part is, and the developers have another solution, and there are people with different economic incentives to back certain solutions, and that means that we need a governance solution. Again, politics come into the picture. A bunch of miners get together for a conference, and they say, "Well, I think we'll make the blocks larger," or "I think we'll skip segregated witness." Right? There's got to be some. Maybe they don't care that those lines are going to cross at some point in the future. They just want to get their money now. And that's another thing that's interesting in this article is their favorite question is, how long are you going to mine for? As in, like, when are you going to make your millions and then just get out?
Exactly. And the developers, that was a few months ago that they all came to the Chinese miners and said, "Hey guys, we got to work together, right?"
Yes.
They were like, "What are you talking about?"
Right. Well, it's amazing. Bitcoin was supposed to be this apolitical kind of just code, right? And immune from all of the human frailties. Debasing the currency and fractional reserve stuff. And it's funny how the human aspects creep their way back in to the process to where we're back, almost where we started from, where the human beings have to get together and work together and maybe make some concessions so that the whole thing works. The tragedy of the commons. You can imagine that there's some short-sighted thinkers that are like, I'm just going to maximize my profits, and it doesn't matter if we drive into the ground, and after 8 years I'll have my money. And
read rules.
Yeah.
If we embrace sidechaining, let's just say, like, from an aspect of blockchain would remain in action, and we could embrace sidechaining. What is the reason for the continued existence of the miners?
Security.
Yeah.
Security?
Yeah, you still need that base layer of security.
It's they're burning, what was it? How many? $500,000 of electricity a day to secure the network. So if you wanted to put fraud onto the network, you've got to burn $500,000 of electricity to put the fraud onto the network.
It's a consensus network, right? So and it's a majority rule. Consensus is 51%. So it means, and because it's decentralized, that mining power sits in the hands of many different groups. And if one group wants to come and rewrite history or apply censorship or stop certain people's accounts from trading, things like that, which is all the nasty stuff we don't want. And with 51% of the total mining power in existence. So the bigger the hash rate, the bigger the mining pool is, the harder it is for a bad actor to come in and take control of the network.
So something like the Ethereum and that type of thing are
Ethereum works on proof of stake, not proof of work. Oh no, it doesn't. It's still proof of work, right? Yeah. So it's exactly the same.
but it's got a smaller stability. It's got a smaller
Way lower security.
Yeah.
Yes. Like
right,
exponentially.
and it's pulling security theoretically away from Bitcoin. So you have a potential of unless they actually have a way of some checking each other.
Well, they're using
the mining hardware,
mining rigs.
the mining algorithms are different. So
Next
yeah, Bitcoin requires the most specialized mining hardware, which is, I think, adds more centralization as well, because you can't mine the general purpose hardware. It uses more an algorithm that's more suitable to general purpose hardware. And the new Zcash has an amazing proof of work algorithm called Equihash. And I just started mining it. I've been mining it for about 3 or 4 days now. And it's basically so good that CPU mining works again. So anyone with a CPU can have a realistic seat at the table and get a decent return with Zcash. So yeah, because they don't want it to become a specialized game. They don't want it to become you buy a specialized bit of hardware. They want it to be anyone with a computer can just plug in and get a decent reward.
Proof of work means that the stability comes from more from the algorithm, less from the computing power.
Different types of securities come from each of those concepts. The more distributed your network, the more people that are participating. I mean, also community creates value. The more people in the community that are participating, that has impact on demand and network effects and expansion of the network. So yeah, the amount of people that are participating sort of forms the market. The amount of people mining gives that technical support.
In the interest of time, I think I'm going to skip over our visit to Spain, our visit to Venezuela, our prediction markets.
100 episode 2 hour special.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, in
Especially previous
Gary,
100
minutes.
Okay. All right. So what is that? Like an extra 40 minutes?
What episode is this tonight?
Episode 100.
What did you get?
100.
Is this one I won really?
Shh. Details, man.
It was 99A and B.
Yeah, 99A was I was procrastinating because I didn't want to was worried about hitting 100. I don't know. Feeling my age. Anyway, no, it was because we had to reschedule. Remember when we had to reschedule? Because you were in Sri Lanka and we couldn't.
You count those?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's why we had to.
Blockchain full? Is that what's happening?
Yes, we're maxed out. We're maxed out on our Tuesday night throughput. All right, let's go a little long tonight. You can feel free if you gotta go. That's cool. But let's see what we got here. Chinese investors turn to Bitcoin amid yuan depreciation. Have you guys seen what's going on with the yuan over the last year? What kind of percentage spread is that? Is that over 1% from 6.4 to 6.7? Anyway, it's driving this flight to safety, right? Because you've got Chinese people that have earned yuan, and the government is deciding to make that yuan less valuable, right? So people are looking for alternatives, and this is part of what is driving the Bitcoin price skyward. It's a better store of value, but it also allows Chinese people to defeat the capital controls that are currently in place with the yuan. So obviously, I think that the Chinese government is not going to be a set of circumstances, and it will be interesting to see what transpires as these set of circumstances get stronger and stronger. It'll be interesting to see how the Chinese government reacts, because you've got all the, this is, I mean, I don't think it's a significant portion of the Chinese economy, these Bitcoin miners, but you do have all of the Bitcoin mining happening in China, and if China uses their laws, shut down all the Chinese miners. I mean, that could happen, right?
I wonder though if their commerce streams are dependent on it. I mean, even if the main streams aren't, the feed streams might be. In other words, like small, like parts for this thing that are dependent on this thing and this thing. It might be in the society enough to where they couldn't shut it down without lowering their overall economy, even if it doesn't represent the entire economy or doesn't represent a large percentage. Sometimes if it's
I hope you're right. I hope you're right about that, because I mean, really, all around the world, Bitcoin is a threat to the status quo, and the idea really is to valuable enough to become widespread enough so that governments can't pull the plug because too many people will be upset. I don't know if we're there yet.
You won't be voting for miners down, right? You'd shut it down now because in 2 years it'll be too bad.
Yeah.
Too hard now.
You reckon? $10 billion.
Oh,
Bill Gates could buy it out, right?
I mean,
you
we're
launch
sitting
a
at
fiscal
2-3% liquidity. If someone dumped a whole lot of money, it wouldn't sit at 10 billion for very long. Before they could buy up 10% of the bitcoins in circulation, probably market cap would double or triple. It'd get exponentially harder to control it the more people bought into it.
That'd be true, but like, if Bill Gates can buy it, right? He's got 80 billion, and this thing's at 10. Imagine what China would do if they really wanted to shut it down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what if China
more like technically attacking it than just trying to buy it?
Could pass legislation? They could decree, Bitcoin is illegal tomorrow. They could wait for the last difficulty reset, and then the next day say no.
Because they know that the next one would just come in to replace it based on that like vacuum. There would
Well, it'd be interesting. I mean, if you shut down all Chinese mining on a dime, I wonder how long it would take to replace the difficulty that's represented by all of that.
That wouldn't. I mean, that would be one part of it. The other problem would be you would have they could depends how they shut it down. If they shut it down by segregating the networks, by breaking the link between the miners and the rest of the world, that would fork the blockchain, and the blockchains would be scalable. That's the thing I worry about the most.
They'll probably just shoot the miners. That's what they do.
It's
right?
not hard to hide where you're mining. It's not hard to hide. You just anonymize.
You use an awful lot of
these mining outfits.
No.
I've seen some documentaries. Yeah, there's a billion. There's so many old industrial sites all over China, and they're doing so many crazy things. You can fit $100,000 mine inside a space, not on this room. I did a $60,000 mine 3 years ago, and it fit in the cupboard. It's very easy to yeah. And then you just anonymize your connection through Tor or something like that.
What about your power bill?
China, there's every little shed's chewing up power, producing something.
They've got excess power.
Yeah, I don't think it's that
Hydroelectric.
hard to actually hide where it is.
Well, we will see. Look at all this. We look at this graph every once in a while. Look at all this. Look at all this Bitcoin going into China.
This one.
I had this.
Apparently it's bullshit because a lot of Americans are going through China. It's like a piece of liquidity.
Oh, really? Ah, yeah. You made that point on the board, right? Anyway, I this is when I take my coffee break. I just watch this. This is my entertainment.
I've seen you Chinese.
Nerd alert.
It's gonna be nice to put on a billboard next to the word.
Yeah. All right. Since we're talking about China, how about this? China ends anonymity on the internet. Right? Nobody likes trolls. Yeah, anonymity. I mean, that just brings out the worst in people. All the trolls, all the pedophiles, all the bad elements. Anonymity on the internet, right?
You've got nothing to hide. What's the point?
Yeah, you got nothing to hide. Check this out. This is really interesting. So for years now, Chinese government has been pushing internet users towards real name registration, Papersbitte, for some internet services with varying degrees of success. But with a new cybersecurity law that will go into effect June 2017, the government has officially stopped beating around the bush. If you want to get online in China, you'll have to provide your real identity. And they're deputizing all of the ISPs. So they're saying if you're going to provide internet access to a person, you need to know who they are. It's know your customer, but for information. For the information age.
I'm actually in favor of this.
Yeah?
Yeah. I want to see mesh networking take off.
Oh,
And I don't think it's going to happen unless there's an intense pressure on the system. I think the system is already so to do this with that some pressure has to happen somewhere, and I'd kind of rather it happens in China and see the technology that will come out of China because they're very tight. They have a lot of, like a city where just based on Wi-Fi, they'll just be able to be like, and all of a sudden the only time you ever have to communicate outside of that is if you need to actually get a trunk line to the.
So you're saying that you're not for identifying every person. You think that this will push people into the mesh network so that they can preserve their anonymity.
Yeah, stimulate innovation. Yeah,
And
exactly.
then you just give the internet connection to the village idiot who did like he's the guy who has the internet connection.
Or you route it through the prime minister's office or something, so he gets all the trouble. The thing is that like if you really look at it, like community is more effective with a mesh network because you keep everything internal.
Right, it's decentralization.
Power, right?
Yeah.
And so from there, I think our evolution is to see what we really need to be communicating across such distance. Right now, it's like I'm shouting over to the other side of Ubud to tell you something.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Routing
So we've got
is
a ridiculous routing nightmare. So I think this might push that towards what do we actually need to communicate, and it's similar to the sidechain concept of what do we really need to link into the security. What's our real security?
Yeah, where do we need to centralize, and can we do this off chain?
So,
yeah, there is some parallels there.
Darknets have big.
Well, here's the follow-on thing that this is tied to, right? And we talked about this before on Tuesday nights. China wants to give all of its citizens a score, and their rating could affect every aspect of their lives, right? So you've heard about a credit rating, right? It controls how much it costs to borrow money. Like in the States, you paid your bills all your life, you get a lower interest rate, and that's your credit score. Well, think if you had a citizen score, right? Too much porn, you get a bad grade. If you're gay, you get a bad grade. If you're looking at the wrong political websites, if you're writing dissident poetry. And this is really insidious because it's also like peer pressure enforced, because people can see each other's scores. So, you know,
Social network.
you're picking who you're going to invite to the party. Oh, Manu, citizen score. We're gonna have to like not invite you to the next party, or
Just invite my aliens.
My avatar will
so
Very Orwellian.
right, and in the age of cell phones, you know, your cell phone is like your tracking device, right? And if your cell phone, if I have my cell phone and I'm in the same room as Manu, they can see that association, and then my citizen score goes down because I'm hanging out with Manu. It's the story of my life.
Sorry.
Anyway, I think this is just awful. I don't know if the cat's already out of the bag. The ship has sailed, but this is really Orwellian and this topic, this
kind of a
dystopian.
favorite.
Dystopian.
Yeah, you are. Oh, I love it, man.
Because what they're doing is that they're gonna load down their monitoring to where they're gonna try to monitor so much that, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like back in the day before, when DSL can, you know, like phone line can only carry this much information, right? All of a sudden it's like, oh, actually we can wrap 30 times that much information around the actual signaling through this new technology. And I think what we're looking at here is there's so much pressure on monitoring that when we start surveillance, when we start watching ourselves, and the thing is if you watch the legislation, if I take it out of the electronic realm for a little bit, legislation, TTIP, all that, that's moving towards right, business rights. So what we have is if we have surveillance and I have copyright on my surveillance on myself, information. Now in China it's a little bit different, but if someone brings some information forward, I can say, do you have the copyright? What was your source for that? Because I recorded that. Unless you can show that you recorded that, it's actually copyrighted. So there are tools that we're going to be able to use. I think it's important to not get afraid of the advances and instead to say, what is the cutting edge of how we can use TTIP, the new laws that are basically benefiting corporations right now? How can we utilize that momentum? Because the nation states are breaking down. And this kind of stuff is basically going to be like, who's going to be really in charge of the surveillance? It's not going to be
a partnering like a social network. That's what I read, like the Weibo or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Like it's where they're going to be working together. And so yeah, it's a centralized system controlling identity that is non-voluntary. Basically, you have to have your identity there, and you have to participate, otherwise nothing in society will function or allow you to work.
Yeah, I mean, once they have your control of your identity, they just can flip a switch, and all of a sudden your credit card doesn't work, your ATM card doesn't work. You know, you can't get on the subway. Maybe you can't even get into your door. If you have self-driving cars, it drives you to the police station. Like,
You know what NSA does in the U.S. anyway? It's just not public.
well, yeah, I mean, this is a trend.
It's very, very honest. It's very honest.
They're above board, right?
You know the whole thing of the rhetoric that the mainstream media goes about. If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. Did anyone know the origin? The origin of that statement is quite interesting.
Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt.
From Goebbels.
Earlier.
One of the
Goebbels,
Nazis.
Propaganda minister. That was what they were saying. You know, we can have the SS, we can do this and that. Don't worry, you've got, you know, if you're a good citizen, you've got nothing to fear, you've got nothing to hide.
Well, it's the same with see something, say something.
It's very ironic that they've just basically adopted the core Nazi propaganda. It's our modern media style.
So how
Nazis need love too.
How do they track? How do they track?
Well,
people, basically?
behind these systems, I mean, if you talk about stupid routing, like right now, yeah, I send any WhatsApp, all the mainstream messages, I send it to you 1 meter away, but it will go through the servers in America, every single one. They've got strong AI, mining the
metadata.
Yeah, now everyone thinks because WhatsApp is using signal technology that it's somehow secure, but all that means like they just get it somewhere else in the chain. It's kind of
bit of a honeypot.
yeah.
You can tell a lot with the metadata.
point is that
That's how they're doing it. I mean, the
They're-
AI is
they're
behind
turning-
Facebook, the AI
yeah.
is behind Google.
they're
and
turning
Chinese
people
must have as well.
into numbers to the greatest degree that they can, so that they can track the numbers. That's ultimately what AI works off of. Right?
There was a very interesting article I saw a few years ago, and it said, in order for the internet to become free, the server must die. Doing networks on a client-server model, the server has to be funded somehow, the AI has to be funded, and that's done through commodification of the human being and commercializing you as a product, selling it, and then advertising comes in. If we want to be stuck on that model forever, these kind of things are a great way of doing that. But if we want to have our own networks, not be monitored, not be commercialized, not be subject to advertising, which is just bloody annoying. Hate those ads. We need to kill the server. We need to have distributed networks for everything.
So then, what we really should be working on, like in a place like Ubud, is to see how much mesh we could get in effect, and what we actually like to, if we could track. It'd be really interesting to be able to track the amount of data that we exchange, and the amount that we actually have to farm from outside. To be able to actually get some numbers on
One of the big barriers on that is the open source software is coming along really well. Bitcoins and darts and all these things, but the open source hardware is lagging desperately.
open mesh. There's some pretty good.
The power in any one of these phones or devices, it has the latent power in it to a mesh network of the whole of Bali right now, especially with the 3G, 4G transmitters that can send a signal at a very high bit rate. But it's all proprietary, locked down. We can't touch any of the insane amount of power we have in our devices. Phones, or people can hack into those radios. We have the hardware.
Well, I would say, Wi-Fi is a little bit
free.
more of an equal exchange thing. The problem with 4G is that it's actually set up to be, it's cellular, so you actually have to have it. It is server-based still.
I don't think it has to be.
I've never heard of anyone, even on a full hack, being able to do 4G to 4G without actually having a processing server in between it. Whereas Wi-Fi is set up as a protocol. And the thing is, Wi-Fi is less distance, but it has the advantage of actually being, I mean, for one thing, it's lower power. It's better for us physically, but it has the advantage of being ubiquitous already. It's already all over the place. And you can extend it pretty easily. Well,
why don't we have that already, though? I mean, you walk through Ubud and you're in a fog of Wi-Fi and everyone is locked down.
we could do it with, I mean, iPhone even has it on, even without unlocking it. You can get, there's an open mesh. If you look at open mesh, there's actually a company that for under $100, you get a repeater. It's basically already set up for their mesh software, and you put them. You can do a neighborhood with just a few of them. So you've got, like, the technology is there. It's just that most people aren't thinking in those terms because of the fact that
there is a cultural aspect to this too. I mean, people put a password on their Wi-Fi network because for some reason we don't trust one another.
It's all legal liability.
Or not.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up with a conversation about top 10 predictions for 2017. Have you seen these, guys? Can you see this? Let's go through some of these and see if they make sense to anybody. Bitcoin as a store of value reemerges as a key theme. This is what we talked about already around the volatility, right? If we can get the volatility down, then maybe more people can see it as a store of value. I don't know if it's going to happen in 2017 or not. It's not going to be there until much later, and other people say even longer than that. Bitcoin becomes more accessible to retail and institutional investors via ETFs. This is huge, right? When you have institutional investors that can invest in Bitcoin, you can get it through your brokerage account, that creates more demand for Bitcoin, but it also enables possibly fractional reserve Bitcoin, paper Bitcoin.
No.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing. I like to hold on to my own Bitcoin.
Announced the Bitcoin index. Chicago Internal Exchange
Really?
They will track Bitcoin price, close, and something else on Bitcoin. So that's like the sort of the
They
first,
choose the price.
but it's the first foundation to lay down the ETF. Because you need an ETF, you need to track the price, right? And it has to be official, not
Right.
like.
But we've seen how the LIBOR scandals, and I mean, that's where you play games, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like theoretically, there's proof of holdings, right? So how do you mess with it? I don't know.
We shall see.
It's a commodity.
It should be. I say it's good in the short term and bad in the long run. So somebody write that down. Hold me to it. Cross-border payments, remittance using Bitcoin hits 1 billion run rate. This is also related to volatility. Total currency, it's more expensive to do remittances, especially, well, if you've got to get in and out of 2 different fiat currencies and Bitcoin. It's directly related to volatility. Exponential Bitcoin transaction growth in India, Japan, and Middle East. You've been watching this, right, Will? And we had a posting of all the local Bitcoin transaction volumes in all these countries. Check this out.
That's great.
It's pretty interesting. And you've been watching for your own sake these markets, and they're going north, right? Up and to the right. Up and to the right. We like that. Explosion of blockchain POCs focusing on supply chain. This the other night, supply chain. There's a use case here. I don't know if I buy that it will happen in 2017. Use case and doing provenance for food, for example. If you want to know that you're actually having fair trade coffee, if you use a blockchain that shows you the farmer that picked that coffee bean. Proof of concept. Blockchain proof of concept focused on supply chain.
We saw that at the Ethereum meeting. Really long time.
Right. They're working on it. Identity solution competition heats up, but no leader emerges. We've talked about identity a lot, yeah, I think it remains to be seen. They've been working on this for a long time. Microsoft was working on single sign-on back in the 90s, and we how many usernames and passwords do you have? Right, we're still not there yet. Yeah. SEC comes down hard on initial coin offerings, ICOs. Limit the competition to Bitcoin. Right? Is the Securities and Exchange Commission going to say no to ICOs? Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
So wait, so they're blocking competitors to the Bitcoin?
They're regulating them. It looks like they will introduce regulation. There's a lot of scams.
MLM,
Oh, yeah.
Bitcoin MLMs now ruling the world.
Yeah.
Well, even the legit ones aren't really legit. A lot of them really dig into them. Like, how's that going to work? A lot of people pour their money in. It's they're getting like 10 times more money than an venture capitalist would put in.
Right.
For
The Dow.
way weaker projects.
What was the other?
Yeah.
Dow. That's right.
Well, it's an easy concept to misunderstand, therefore it's easy to scam.
Yeah, well,
Yes, you can.
people aren't, sophisticated investors like VCs do it for a living, and angel investors have started their own companies and their own scene, but public, they're protected by security exchange rules, right? I think that it's kind of a good thing if they do it right. Like if I look at the top 10 market cap, it's seen for scams.
I disagree with
We'll have a showdown next Tuesday. All right.
None of them are in the top 10. They all have unique technology to the table. It's a spawning pool for new technologies to emerge.
Yeah. Didn't you do an index of coins that weren't forks of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy some of them. I think some of them are shitty. But,
Out of
I wouldn't say they're
750
scams.
coins, about 20
About
have
20
unique,
are-
unique code bases.
I mean, you said something about you didn't even like Zcash. Like you said, didn't you say that was a scam? One of your
It's
recent
a
posts?
scam. It's definitely a scam.
You don't understand the technical elements that behind that. It's very
It's a
unique.
fork of Bitcoin. It's a fork of
It's a
Bitcoin.
massive improvement in a lot of areas of Bitcoin.
Yes.
The fact it uses zero-knowledge proofs to
We'll talk
anonymize
about it
it,
in a minute.
it's literally the most private cryptocurrency that's ever been created.
And it's going on to Bitcoin. And it's going on to Bitcoin.
There we go. So then it's not a scam; it's a spawning
It's a
pool.
testnet.
If that technology gets rewarded and rewards those creators, and that somehow morphs and improves all the other cryptocurrencies, how can you say it's a scam? That's a great thing for
Who's
the
benefiting
ecosystem.
and who's losing on the scam?
That original tech, we'll talk about it.
I'm just because that's what makes a scam, right?
It was a
Someone's
mixing service.
losing.
The technology was in there, and then they
It's
launched
got a
the coin.
superior mining algorithm. It's more private. It's got a ton of innovation in it. It's the first cryptocurrency to use zero-knowledge proofs, and that's been like highly anticipated for a very long time. The ability to prove you have something without revealing anything about how you obtained it. It's breakthrough technology.
All right, I'm gonna hold it there. You've had the last word, Manu, at least until we get to dinner. Last three. The first greater than 50 million M&A transaction. Who's doing M&A? I don't even know.
What?
That's maybe
There's
we.
been some that have been brought up.
These are Barry Silbert's predictions, and so I think we got to go see him. He's going to be in Singapore on the 17th of November. We got to go find out what he meant about that one. Micro payment models materialized. That's exciting.
Great.
That's also, I think, enabled through some of the segregated witness technology and side chains and Lightning.
Equals higher, that's a safe bet.
Bitcoin price on 12/31/2017 higher.
Oh,
All right, I like that one. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. We have come to the end of another Tuesday night session. Bitcoin filter number 100. Do you guys want to do another 100? Let's do another 100 episodes.
100
Not tonight, though. Not tonight.
Let's do 100 next week.
Yeah,
Thank-
100 episodes will be at Willie's Singularity.
Yeah. Yes, we've got to come back for that.
Yeah.
All right, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. We're also on Facebook, and you can always go to the bitcoinsinbali.org website. And we will do this again, just like we do every Tuesday night, 5 p.m. local time in Bali. We'll see you next week. Thanks for coming out, guys.